Hello everybody, my name is Bragster and welcome to my thoughts on second year at university. Now, as you eagle-eyed people will know, this is my uni room, which means usually I do these semester roundups or yearly roundups when I'm at home after uni's done and as soon as I get my exams. That was the plan, but I was working all summer, so I didn't get the chance to. So here it is. Here is my year two kind of review, I guess, of the year at University of Sheffield doing journalism. Year two. Now, I'm not going to speak about semester one as much because there's already a video over on the channel. It'll probably be up here somewhere about semester one of year two. This is about semester two, where we had two modules. We had data-driven storytelling and live news production. Live news production is the big one. It was like the big mama of everything, whereas data-driven storytelling was the little baby in the corner. So we'll go through the little baby and then we'll go to the big mama. But data-driven storytelling, all about data, and there's a lot of journalism stories at the moment about data, like COVID really skyrocketed news stories about data so much. But in this, we had to do a group project with three other individuals and then me. But one of them that was meant to be in my group did absolutely nothing and never turned up. So we had three people in our team, and we managed to produce something that we were reasonably proud of. It ended up being about free school meals and what makes people eligible for free school meals, and basically why there is so many people that get it in first schools, like new individuals that get it in first schools, but not so much in other schools. And we looked into that a bit more. I ended up getting a 60% in that, which ended up being a 2-1. But then in my video pitch, where you have to go through what you did personally and stuff like that, so your own personal work, I got 72, which says to me that my own personal work, what I did, was very much what they were looking for. Just unfortunately, our final piece just wasn't that strong storytelling wise, but the actual work that I put in and the manipulating of the data that I did was actually really good, and I'm really happy with that. 66% overall. It could have been better. It really could have been better, but for one that I think we struggled with, especially with only having 3 members of our team, and then one of those members of the team not being in journalism as well, so there was only really 2 people in our team that do journalism, so it ended up being quite difficult, but we got through it. It was all fine. In terms of the actual module itself, I'm glad that I did it. It was between that and investigative journalism. Investigative is just not something I personally want to go into. I do not like going too into people's personal lives and stuff unless they want to talk about it. A lot of the stuff I do is about what people want to talk about, whereas data driven, it's, it might be more about what's actually going on. Okay, so here are some numbers, what's going on here, and you explaining that. I prefer that a bit more. I'm good with numbers, and I like Excel as well, so it ended up going up more my alley. But I really liked it. I developed a lot of skills, especially using Excel, and how to use it in a journalism standpoint. I thought it was a really useful part of the course to have taken on, and I really do think that that's going to help me going into third year. Now the big mama, the live news production, the module that went from the start of the year to the very end of the year, but I'll only talk about what I did in second semester. Again, there's a video on first semester if you want to have a look at what I did in that semester. But for this one, there was a range of stuff. We had features, we had radio, we had online news production, and we had a TV package to do. I'll run through them as they are on my screen with my marks, because I've got my marks here, just so I didn't get them wrong. But we ended up having the radio news days. Now, the radio news days, what it was you were in a room, you had a room full of computers, and then next to it, you had a room with radio booths and stuff like that, with other radio booths next to it. But you had the one main one that was broadcast into the room, and the other ones to help you record maybe voices and stuff to be used on the radio. The radio didn't go out to the public, it was only shown in the room, so that made things difficult to get people to comment on stuff, because when they asked where's it going to go, you had to break the news it's not going to go anywhere, which is not great, not ideal, but, and there's the big but, it's still good experience trying to convince people to still give you those stories, because it's going to be useful in general. So that you had to really use your journalistic skills to try and convince people to actually talk to you that little bit more, especially if it's not going anywhere. But it was really, really good. You had to, when interviewing people, you had to use these little microphones. I can't remember the name of them. It's completely slipped my mind. Task cams, there we go, task cams. So you had to use these little task cams, and you know, when interviewing people, rather than maybe just writing notes, you had to actually use it, so their voice was, you know, on display for everyone to hear in the radio room. Now, in the radio news days, you get to choose your different roles, you get to put forward what roles you want to do. For me personally, I wanted to take on as many roles as possible. I took on editor for one day, head editor. That was nervy. I then took on as a reporter, and then I went into a presenter, a radio presenter for the final one, and a bulletin presenter, which meant I had a 2-minute bulletin and I had to read it out. It's a lot more difficult than you think to do, because you can't get anything wrong. The editor role was tough, and what made it even tougher was the fact that the day or the night before, I ended up being editor with my really good friend Emma. Before we had to do that, the day before, Russia declared war on Ukraine and started invading Ukraine. That made it really difficult, because it meant that we had to fit that in everywhere, which meant that we had to get interviews on the day with people from Ukraine and stuff like that. So it made it really, really difficult. It was an experience that I will never ever forget, and like, especially when it hit a lot of us hard. In general, you know, it hit the world hard, didn't it? And it's still hitting the world hard now. What made it even worse for us is there are a few Ukrainians at university that we had to interview, and we had to try and interview for our university work, and it felt, we all said it felt horrible to do. It really did, because in that situation, you don't want to have to ask people the questions that we ended up having to ask them about what's going on, and just how they feel about it. But we did it, we marched through it, and fair play to those people that did talk to us, because we know how hard that must have been. Like, we can't even fathom how hard that must have been. But we had to then fit that in alongside all the other news that people have done, and it was our first radio news day as well. No one had ever done one before, so it was all rather new to us. We didn't know really how it was going to go. We didn't really know how to do it. So it was a very tough day overall for a multitude of reasons. Then I was a reporter, to which I actually did pretty well. Like, I did a lot of my stuff in advance, and then on the day, I think I had 2 or 3 interviews over the phone that I would just record in one of the radio booths. So that ended up being a really good day, because my organisation really benefited me, and it was one of the first times at uni, especially on the news days, where my organisation really helped us out, and even helped the newsroom out as well, because it meant that when there was a murder that day, and they had to send people out, I had to stay, because I had a couple of phone calls later on that day, and I had stuff in the pipeline. So we sent someone out, a couple of people out that didn't necessarily have things to do, or were struggling to get confirmation for interviews. So I ended up staying, and then I ended up writing up some news pieces to go into the bulletins while we didn't have quotes or really much news about the event and about the murder. We just had to keep researching, and I could do that in the background. Me and one of my friends, Flo, we were literally there in the room just typing up everything. We were like, right, let's get this done. And it was a really good day, just because I think it was like it was one of the first times that I was able to just really see where everything was going to take me past that point. And then I was a bulletin reader. If you can't tell, I want to be a presenter at some point, a radio or TV presenter, so a bulletin was right up my alley. I really wanted to do it, and it was tough. You have to speak at the right pace, the right tone. Apparently my tone was very good because I was able to just lift my tone and lower my tone. It was just the speed I was talking at that became a bit of an issue. But that is something I can develop on over time. But there was no major criticisms, really. I did muck up a few parts in the day. One of the funnier muck-ups that I had was getting the time wrong, because every hour we had time bulletins, and I would say, hello, my name's Conor Bragger, and these are your headlines at like 11:30. It was 10:30 at the time that I said that. I don't know why in the world I got it wrong, but I did, and it was quite funny to listen back to, because I was just like, that's such a minor error, and you just did not realise it had happened. But that was really good. So on my radio news days altogether, I ended up getting 66. Again, quite consistent with what I got before in data. I was hoping for a bit more, but unfortunately, I just couldn't quite get that one. I had a features pitch, actually, that we needed to do. We had to pitch to different magazines about an idea that we had. I ended up getting 60 on that. I'm not going to go in too much detail, because basically, if I went in too much detail on how to pitch, I would literally be given the lecture that we had before having to hand that in. So, but it's more difficult than you think, because you have to hit a bunch of pointers and you have to be really specific. If you're doing pitches, be really, really specific, because that's the only way that you can get good marks and really stand out. Then we had the online news days. Now, the online news days were an absolute whirlwind. We had to do multiple stories, and you had to do a video-led story. I did my video-led story on snooker, because the Snooker World Championships was coming up. We have a local snooker academy. I'm going to try and pronounce the name, and I'm sorry if I pronounce it wrong. Ding Junhee Snooker Academy. We have his in the centre of town. So I went down there, and I interviewed one of the coaches. I wanted to interview one of the players, but unfortunately I couldn't get hold of them. And then I interviewed the person who runs the academy while Ding is practicing and not there. But it ended up being really good, ended up getting some really good shots, and that story ended up going down really well. If I got a player, I think it would have been so much better, but unfortunately I just couldn't get a player in time for that. But that's just the way the cookie crumbles, really. For my other stories, one of them was a murder. I had to go and do door knocks. If you don't know what door knocks are, it's when one of your neighbours gets murdered, your door gets knocked on by journalists asking for quotes. I had to go to the neighbours of a woman who had tragically been murdered, and I had to literally knock on their doors and ask them for quotes, which we did, but it was so nervy. It was an experience, again, I'll never forget. You know, seeing people in the white suits that you see them in on TV, going in and out of the house, and because it literally happened the day before, and having to speak to police and stuff. It was so nervy. Felt so on edge. But me and my friend Reese on the course managed to do it together. Thank God we did it together, because I think we really helped to keep each other's spirits up. But we ended up doing that, and it ended up being a really good piece and getting picked up by the Sheffield Star as well, which was very, very good for us. And then my other piece was on a comic relief study that came out about mental health, and obviously mental health's a massive deal at the moment. Well, it's a massive deal in general, but obviously at the moment there's a massive push to get people to talk a lot more. So that was a really nice story for me to do, to kind of say, look, we need more people to talk about their mental health. It was a really nice piece to do. I got 68 on that, by the way, 68%. Then we had the feature. So my pitch, I didn't manage to get my pitch, so I was moved on to another magazine that needed people on, called The Veil, and it was a British-Chinese magazine, and we had to get in touch with British Chinese people about their experiences Like for me personally, I had to do it about experiences at schools and stuff, and Brandon was brilliant. He helped me out so much. I had to thank one of my friends on the course, Yasmin, for helping me talk to Brandon and connect with Brandon. But it ended up being a really nice piece, and I ended up getting 66% for that. Really nice first person piece, and there's a lot of really nice stuff to hear, but also some horrible stuff to hear in terms of like, he settled in really nicely, but unfortunately had to experience some racism in this country, again, which is just horrible to hear. But the piece itself was really nice, just because you got to highlight the good bits as well as the bad bits, and it all comes together into a really good piece that I really enjoyed writing, actually, and I was quite proud of. And then we've got the TV package. The reason why I left it till last, we got 72% on. I got a first on, which was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. The TV package, we went to Young Voices. We got in touch with the CEO, he got back to us, and we got full access to the rehearsals. We got to literally record what we wanted, interview pretty much who we wanted. We got to interview the CEO, we got to interview the singers that were singing with them that evening. It was an amazing experience. It was surreal. I can't put into words. Walking into the Utilita Arena and hearing the kids singing and like cheering and stuff as we walked into the arena was just unreal. Like goosebumps went up all of us, me, Johnny and Tia. It went up all of us. It was an amazing experience. Young Voices ended up asking if they could use the piece and stuff elsewhere and show other people, which we gave them permission for, which was an amazing compliment to us, because that means that we gave them a good piece and a piece they really enjoyed. But unfortunately, we couldn't get to interview a couple of the kids that were performing, just because there was a COVID outbreak on the day between a couple of the staff, which delayed things enough to the point where we couldn't unfortunately get any. But it was a really good experience, an experience again I'll never ever forget. Speaking of experiences I will never forget throughout the year, varsity was a big thing. Obviously with COVID and stuff the year before, we weren't able to do varsity. This year I was able to do varsity. Ended up presenting the basketball, the men's and women's basketball. So I was there the entire evening. It was a tiring night, but it was so much fun. Like, I'm someone that I don't watch basketball a lot. I really don't. But what I do is I used to play it. So I had a bit of knowledge. I knew a lot of the rules that people don't usually know about, or like people who don't play or watch the sport don't know about. So I knew at least a little bit. So when presented, I could talk about that. It was an absolute blast, a genuine blast. It was surreal having like an earpiece in and everything. To get them talking in your ear throughout the entire night, even when you're live, was so surreal. Like the first time they started talking to me in my ear when I was live, I hesitated, and you can see that. But eventually I got used to them talking in my ear, and it was so much fun. It really proved that I really am on the right path in terms of wanting to be a presenter. It just, like, for me, other people might disagree, but for my personal enjoyment, it suits me down to an absolute T. I also managed to do some football commentary. I did the men's first football commentary for the first half of that game, and that was an absolute blast as well. Me and my mate Johnny, we had an absolute blast on commentary. Like, he was definitely a much more natural commentator. I wasn't really a natural commentator. It's not something that I personally want to go into. Obviously, I wanted experience in it to see whether I'd enjoy it, and I did enjoy it. I really did enjoy it. So it's definitely an avenue that I will keep open, but it's obviously not top of my list. But commentary was a lot of fun in terms of that, and I really enjoyed it. I had an absolute amazing time, and me and Johnny were laughing the entire way and just smiling the entire time. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, I'm trying to think if I had any more experiences really throughout the year, but I think I pretty much covered it. That second semester was absolute mayhem in terms of, you know, all the experiences. And then it comes to the NCTJ. I like to call it the miracle on Mapping Street, because how in the world I did it, I do not know. I'd failed public affairs the previous year, and I'd failed court reporting, the NCTJ court reporting. I needed to retake both of those. I also then had my uni exams around the same time. I had a court reporting exam. What else did I have? I had so many. I had like a bunch of portfolios for all live news. So basically, I had like a week to revise for all of these, and it was genuinely anyone that had the retakes were all in the big study building for hours on end, studying, literally pulling their hair out trying to study as much as possible. But I did it. I passed all my NCTJ exams. I passed the other exams that I had, the court reporting exam, written exam. With the court reporting written exam, I ended up getting a first on it, which I was really, really happy with. Getting 72% on it was absolutely incredible. And then getting 70% in my portfolio for court reporting as well, and reporting from court. That was another experience. Going into court and physically sitting in court and seeing people, like criminals going in and out of court and getting like handcuffs on them and stuff, was surreal as hell. Sitting near the family members of the victims and also the perpetrators was just, it was again another experience I will never ever forget. But yeah, I think that's what second semester of this year was. It was moment after moment of things I will never ever forget, and that was not including the memories I made naturally, right? The going out with my friends and spending time with them and just enjoying myself with them, you know, going on the Otley run and stuff like that, which we had a lot of fun doing. Like, if you want to see a little insight into how like much I really enjoyed for the second year and in general, and not necessarily the academic side, I will put a video up here again of my second year at university, and you can see all the photos and stuff that I had and the amount of enjoyment that I had. But in terms of the course, there was experience after experience, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah, I might be a bit biased because I absolutely love this uni, but this course and this uni just this year really showed to me that I was going down the right path and that I chose the right place to be, because it was genuinely, I've genuinely had an absolute blast. Every single second of it has been incredible. And I didn't think I'd be able to have half of the experiences that I've had, and let alone if you told me that I'd have all of them. But yeah, it's been absolutely incredible. If you do have any questions, do ask them down in the comments down below. If you have enjoyed this video and watched it this far, please make sure to hit that like button just to tell me that you do enjoy videos like this. And if you're new here, please do subscribe, because I do videos like this after each semester, and if anything big happens, like my work experience with the Sheffield Star and stuff like that, I do post videos on it and try and update you on my journey into journalism as much as possible. So do subscribe so you do not miss a thing, and I shall see all of you in the next video. See ya! Genuinely, that was surreal to talk about that, because what a year.